Have you ever had one of those quiet moments where you stop and wonder, what am I actually supposed to be doing with my life? Not dramatically, just honestly. Like, am I on the right path? But what if your life isn't random? What if there's actually a purpose built into who you are, and you're closer to it than you think? What's up, my EFF? Let me tell you how it is. You've just stumbled upon God Jots, a series about the nature of love, compassion, joy, and the real-life connection between human beings. I'm Bowen, Nashville, Tennessee rock pop artist, author, husband, father, complete dork, and aspiring compassionist. Sit back, relax, and be prepared to laugh, cry, maybe even color code a notebook or two, for some reason. At some point in life, usually during a quiet moment, a frustrating season, or a late-night spiral involving Google searches like, what am I actually doing with my life, followed immediately by, is it normal to feel like this at 1:47 a.m.? Most of us ask the same question. Why am I here? Not in a dramatic, rooftop shouting way, but in a quieter, more honest sense. What is God's purpose for your life? And how are you supposed to find it without accidentally missing it, mislabeling it, or walking right past it while distracted by notifications and reheated leftovers? Among the many thoughts I've had on this subject, here's one that's both comforting and mildly unsettling. God didn't repeat himself when he made you. Not even a little. Your fingerprint alone proves that. Among billions of people who have ever lived, not a single one has had your exact print. Not even identical twins. Not even you after a long day when your hands are dry and your phone refuses to unlock and you start negotiating with technology like it's a sentient being. Whew, God, take a breath. Your fingerprint is entirely, unmistakably, stubbornly unique, which is fascinating because it exists for one main reason: identification. It's how the world knows you were here. And maybe that's the point. Your fingerprint isn't just a biological quirk or a cool fact you learned in middle school science class. It's a quiet reminder that you were created for a purpose, and that purpose was never meant to be interchangeable. God didn't design you as a backup plan or a spare part waiting on the sidelines in case someone else dropped the ball. He designed you as you, with a path, a calling, and an imprint only you can leave. No pressure, sorta. Just significance. If that's true, then why does discovering purpose feel so confusing? Why do so many people wrestle with finding God's purpose for your life as if it's a scavenger hunt with missing clues, conflicting advice, and at least one well-meaning person who keeps saying, you'll just know, which is deeply unhelpful when you very much just do not know. Part of the struggle comes from comparison. We look at other people's lives and assume their clarity means our confusion is failure. We see someone confidently walking a path and think, they must have figured out what God wants them to do. Why haven't I? That question quietly multiplies into others, doesn't it? What if I miss my calling? What if I already did? What if God's plan for my life was obvious and I somehow walked right past it because I was tired, overwhelmed, or emotionally unavailable before coffee? I can't tell you how many times I've asked these questions. Another part of the problem is that we expect purpose to arrive like a lightning bolt. Dramatic, unmistakable, and preferably accompanied by a clear instruction manual, as opposed to those Japanese ones with the images that barely have any relevance to the thing you're assembling. We wait for something spectacular, when purpose is usually revealed through patterns, not spectacles. Fingerprints don't appear all at once. They form slowly, intentionally, line by line. Purpose works the same way. It develops over time, often while you're busy doing very ordinary things and wondering if any of it matters. When people ask what is God's purpose for your life and how to find it, they often assume there's a single answer waiting somewhere in the future. But purpose isn't something you stumble upon once and then frame on the wall. It's something you live into, gradually, imperfectly, and often while wondering if you're doing it right. If that feels unsettling, congratulations. you're probably closer than you think.
I am so excited to tell you about my very first God Jots book, Forgiveness and Healing: How to Seek, Offer, and Understand the Power of Forgiveness. What is forgiveness? What is the power of forgiveness? And how can you use it to set yourself free from the chains of that bondage? Learn how to forgive, learn how to apologize, and read real stories from real people that'll help you get through it. Plus, hey, on top of that, a whole lot of my weirdness, I suppose. So if you're willing to take a chance on that, check it out. It's available now, including signed copies, at forgivenessbook.godjots.com. Go check it out.
Think about how fingerprints are actually used. Yes, they identify criminals, which is not the direction this podcast is going, so relax, but they also unlock phones, secure accounts, and grant access. A fingerprint doesn't just prove who you are, it determines what you're allowed to access. That's not accidental. In the same way, God's unique purpose for your life isn't just about identity, it's about responsibility and trust. Your fingerprint leaves an imprint wherever you go. It marks surfaces, it lingers, it proves presence. And once it's left behind, it can't be undone, which is both inspiring and mildly terrifying depending on the situation. That's a powerful metaphor for purpose. You don't just have a purpose, you leave evidence of it through how you live, how you love, how you show up when it would be easier to disappear quietly and pretend you were never involved. Fulfilling God's purpose for your life doesn't start with grand plans or dramatic announcements. It starts with alignment. I've talked elsewhere about how purpose often lives at the intersection of talents and passions, and that still holds. But the fingerprint metaphor adds another layer: permanence. Your purpose isn't fragile. It isn't erased by detours, doubt, or delay. God didn't design something this specific only to abandon it halfway through because you took a wrong turn or asked the wrong question. When people ask, how do you know God's purpose for your life? The answer often isn't clarity. It's consistency. Over time, certain things keep showing up. Certain burdens won't leave you alone. Certain joys keep pulling you forward, even when they complicate your life instead of simplifying it. Those aren't coincidences. Those are impressions being made. One of the most common fears people have is this: what if I don't know my purpose yet? Or worse, what if I never figure it out and everyone else somehow does and I'm just here? The good news is that discovering God's purpose for your life doesn't require panic, perfection, or a 5-year plan color-coded in a notebook you never actually use. Fingerprints don't form under pressure. They form because of design. Purpose unfolds as you walk in faith, not before. You don't need to see the entire path to take the next step. When people ask how to find God's purpose for your life, they're often hoping for a roadmap. What they usually need is reassurance. God isn't waiting for you to mess this up. You don't accidentally wander out of God's plan because you hesitated, doubted, or took a slower route than someone else. Your imprint is already built into who you are. Your wiring, your experiences, your compassion, your perspective. Even your struggles shape the pressure points that form your unique print, especially those. If you've ever wondered why God lets you struggle so much while searching for direction, it may be because pressure reveals patterns. It doesn't create purpose, but sure clarifies it, and usually in hindsight, which is rude but effective. Living with purpose doesn't mean every day feels meaningful. Sometimes it feels repetitive, frustrating, or painfully ordinary. Sometimes it feels like you're doing the same small things over and over and over and wondering if any of it counts. But purpose isn't measured by how impressive your life looks. It's measured by how faithfully you leave the imprint you were designed to leave. When you love someone others overlook, you leave an imprint. When you choose integrity over applause, you leave an imprint. When you keep showing up, even when clarity hasn't arrived yet, you leave an imprint. This is what living out your purpose actually looks like. Small, faithful marks that add up over time. Not flashy, not loud, but unmistakably yours. Bible verses about God's purpose for your life consistently point toward trust, obedience, and faithfulness, not flawless execution. God's plan isn't dependent upon your ability to predict it. It's dependent on your willingness to walk with Him. Sometimes confidently, sometimes cautiously, sometimes muttering, okay, I guess we're doing this, under your breath. The quiet truth underneath all of this is that your purpose doesn't disappear when you doubt it. Your fingerprint doesn't vanish when you forget it exists. You're leaving an imprint whether you realize it or not. The question isn't whether you have a purpose. The question is what kind of a mark you're choosing to leave. All right, now it's your turn. Where do you feel pressure in your life right now? What patterns keep showing up, even when you try to ignore them? What do people consistently thank you for or lean on you for without you asking? If your fingerprint represents your God-given design, what imprint are you leaving today? Not someday, not when everything is figured out. Today. Purpose isn't a finish line. It's a faithful walk. And God didn't give you a fingerprint no one else has, unless He also intended you to leave an imprint no one else can. If you like this episode and want to be notified when new ones are uploaded, make sure you don't leave without hitting that subscribe button. Or subscribe to God Jots on your favorite podcast streaming service. You can also check out more God Jots, as well as subscribe to the Monday Joy Bomb newsletter for ebooks, updates, and exclusive content at godjots.com. Until next time, be honest with yourself. Be truthful with others. Give people the opportunity to surprise you. And remember that it's impossible to have absolutely nothing in common with another human being. Be a little light in the world. I'm sure I'll see you soon.